Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, episode number 178 of Let's Go Racing. Tyler Jones, Dominic Aragon here with you, as we are going to be joined by one of our favorites around here, Jerry Jordan of KickInTheTires.net, coming up in just a little while from right now. We'll look back at the weekend that was with Kyle Larson dominating at Bristol. Also, Jerry is fresh off a visit to Vegas where Tony Stewart was victorious. We'll talk all about that, get the inside scoop on Smoke's big victory on the NHRA scene. And it is an off weekend on the Cup side of things, but there's still action going on in Rockingham as we return to the Rock in the Xfinity and Truck Series. We'll talk about that, get to our news and notes, our mailbag in just a matter of moments. Dom, always a pleasure. First off, let's kind of share our thoughts on Kyle Larson getting the win there at Bristol, dominating fashion. And I think the most important thing was the bounce back for him after wrecking on, what was it, lap 4 at Darlington and just having an awful day to then turn things around and dominate in the fashion that he did. I think that was a good reminder. This is a week-to-week sport. Things change very quickly. And for him and that team, I think that's big for momentum to rebound the way that they did, and also doing so honoring the late John Edwards, who we're going to talk about later on as well. Just a big weekend for that 5 team.
Even a comparison here, Tyler, to golf, where you could have one bad hole, maybe a double bogey or triple bogey for our golf listeners out there, and then you go out and par or birdie, and you get that natural momentum get built up. Certainly a week-to-week difference there. Crashing twice, the leading 411 out of the 500 laps, pretty much backing up what he did in the fall time. Now, NASCAR was expecting a lot of tire wear with the race. They even gave teams an extra set of Goodyear tires to be able to potentially compensate to what we had seen with tire management in the race last April, where we saw Martin Truex and Denny Hamlin come down to the wire. We didn't get that this time, Tyler. We got 3 cautions, 2 of them of which were for stage breaks. That last stage went completely green. Believe I remember seeing somewhere online that was the longest a green flag run had gone as far as consecutive laps at Bristol since like 2004, so long before the dawn and the era of stage racing.
Yeah. The race, if we're going to be honest, was pretty boring. Not a whole lot of action. Kyle Larson dominates the whole day. And Dom, like, here we are, how many years into the car, and we still don't have a solution for these short tracks. The NextGen has run very well on 1.5 miles, on road courses, super speedways, but it feels like we haven't made any progress. Maybe we're even going backwards when it comes to the short track program right now. I mean, I love short track racing, but right now, with the way this car is rolling out, when we roll to a short track, I just say to myself, all right, here we go again.
Yeah, it's kind of like I'd love to hear Jerry's take on this in a minute too, but do we hope for a caution at the end? At least that's what I see a lot of fans talking about, and at least try to maybe close up that gap a little bit with some of these races. And yeah, these are old school ass whoopings like you would see like in the 1990s or the 2000s, where Jeff Gordon would go and lead a bunch of laps, or Rusty Wallace would go lead a bunch of laps. But this type of racing, the next gen vehicle gets a lot of things right, but the short track program could use some improvement. I'm with you there.
Yeah, it's disappointing, but a big win for Kyle Larson nonetheless. We'll talk all about it here as we continue on. Dom, this man needs no introduction. I think he's been with us just as much as any guest on this program previously. It's Jerry Jordan of KickInTheTires.net. Dom, how about this? For his introduction this week, I'll give you the platform, as you always bring in our guests. In a minute or less, how would you roast Jerry Jordan?
Ooh, you put me on the spot there. Okay. I'm gonna have to come back to you on that one. I'm gonna have to.
No, 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 no. That was the challenge. You did not live up to the billing.
Oh, you put me on the spot like that. I guess like when I
You
put you
put
on
me
the
on the
spot.
spot every week with your damn odds. It was only fitting I got you back.
Okay, you got me back on that one. How can you roast a man who needs no introduction? We need Jeff Ross here for that. We're gonna roast Jerry Jordan. I think we got to pull out all the punches, and I clearly don't have those right now on me. But nonetheless, I think he's been on the show 7 or 8 times. So I don't know what we're doing right or what we're doing wrong to keep getting Jerry to come back, but he keeps agreeing to come back on this show with us. So I guess thank you, Jerry, for coming back this week.
I think it's because you do the show so late that it actually fits into my schedule better.
Little inside
Okay.
baseball here, as Tyler would say. We tape the show typically on Tuesday nights. So,
Yes. I
yeah,
mean,
usually
I'm
the account for David's schedule. Sometimes he can make it, sometimes he can't. Couldn't make it this week, but Jerry is always there. Jerry, if I don't know if this is part of the roast, but I would compare you to like a Josh Berry of 2023. You're like the super sub for us, man. We call you up sometimes at the 11th hour because it is 11 o'clock at night your time. We're like, hey, yeah, I'll be there. I can do
yeah,
it.
it's 10 o'clock here, but that's okay. I'm the same time as Tyler. I'm just like dead south from him. But I have a solution for the for and I'm going to get a little setup here, but I have a solution maybe for the car at short tracks.
I'm
And
listening.
do what?
I'm listening.
Okay, okay,
Tyler,
Yeah,
okay.
we're all ears here.
Okay, so I was in Vegas this past weekend, and there's a Frankenstein game, which reminds me of some of the cars we've had in NASCAR. And when you think you're going to win on this game, there's two different like features in the spins, and one of them is this one. More power. I don't know if y'all can hear that, but
you could
more
not hear that.
power. You
So we're
could
going
not
the
hear
Denny
that.
Hamlin route here, Jerry. We need more horsepower.
Yeah. More power.
Still couldn't
So
hear it, but we get the idea. More
okay,
power. Yeah.
okay. Well, I'm sorry, sorry. I mean, I don't know why it would cut out. That's weird. I can hear it perfectly here, and I'm deaf.
Okay.
Uh,
So,
More power.
Jerry, for those that may not understand cars like maybe we do here, if we were to dumb it down, explain it to somebody like their five, what does more horsepower do in theory? How would you explain that?
Okay, so the Cup cars have about 700, 750, 600. I don't know, somewhere between 650 and 750 horsepower. This past weekend, I was at NHRA, and those cars make 11,000 horsepower. Okay, thousands of horsepower. I'm not saying we put thousands of horsepower in a Cup car because the engine wouldn't last. But good heavens, um, we just need to let these guys do what they do in race. Slowing the cars down has obviously not worked at short tracks. There's only going to be so much. I mean, they can't get off the corners. They can't. It's just it's not working. Okay, I was in Vegas watching the race in my car as the drag racing was going on behind me. I had my phone set up with my Xfinity app. Thank you, Xfinity, for that. And it was Kyle Larson in the lead. Hey, Kyle Larson leads another lap. And in a historic day, Kyle Larson, you know, Kyle Larson again. No matter what it was, every time I came back from shooting photos, it was Kyle Larson in the lead. He led 400 plus laps. He also led like almost every, he was supposed to win on Friday. He dominated on Saturday and he dominated on Sunday. No matter when I was listening to a race this past weekend, it was Kyle Larson. And I love Kyle Larson. Great guy. But you know, the Cup car didn't give anybody else a chance on Sunday.
Yeah, I'm with you. And to kind of add to your point of putting this in the simplest of terms, Jerry, if you add more horsepower, then you are giving more control of the car to the drivers,
Yes.
which in theory should put on better racing because it's more competitive where the cars obviously you have more passing, you can make things more aggressive, all of that. In the simplest of terms, that's how we would describe this to people that may not understand this, that like it's giving more power to these drivers to do what they're best at.
See the sign? Speed limit none.
Yeah.
I know we're not, but I know we're not on video this week, but that sign, speed limit none. When did we start limiting this stuff? I mean, let's go back to the we can't ever go back to the good old days of NASCAR. But the truth is, let's go back to the good old days of when we had a car that could actually get out of its own way and people could race on the track. Because, we don't have it right now, at least not at Bristol. These short tracks races are not good. They're boring. This is what it is. And I know I'm right because That's what the odds. That's what the polls are saying. That's what the fans are saying. Read social media, NASCAR. It is what it is.
So why did we get to this point though, Jerry? Why are we sitting here and saying that they reduced the horsepower this much? Like what was the purpose or intent of why it's been watered down this much?
I don't know. Cost savings was one of them. Denny Hamlin has a take that, look, it's costing him the same thing to build an engine as it does now as it did back then. It's whether he makes more horsepower or less and within a certain window, it's about the same cost. You're not saving any money. Team owners are going to spend as much money as they have to go as fast as they can so they can win as many races as they can. If you limit the horsepower, they're just going to spend that money somewhere else. Okay. They they admit it. They are their own worst enemy. Okay, so stop trying to save all these teams money. If they want to go out of business because of themselves, go out of business. Okay, if you're gonna spend so much money that you can't stay in business because you're trying to go fast to win a race, maybe you shouldn't have been there. You know,
100%. And what I would say to that too, Dom, is like I've heard people in the past, like Dale Jr. and Jeff Gordon and others, they have said, look, money, we're not trying to turn a profit. I think Jeff Gordon said recently that Hendrick Motorsports hasn't turned a profit in 10 years, that they're looking to break even. And so all this talk about cost, cutting back cost, as long as the money is still there, the top teams are still going to spend every dollar they can to their disposal to compete at the highest level, not hold anything back.
I think so. And they're like, they always say, if you want to make a little bit of money in racing, start with a lot of it. Want to make small fortunes, start with a big one. And the team owners are clearly wanting to do this. They're wanting, and I think a lot of the drivers are outspoken. Jerry, are we at a point where we're in too deep with this next gen vehicle and the package that we have that NASCAR doesn't want to make a turnaround and admit anything?
well, I think we're still in that same scenario where they're hopeful that we're going to get another manufacturer. And I keep hearing that. And I've heard about Dodge putting I knew about this Dodge thing before it came out, but I was sworn to secrecy because I was trying to get an interview with the CEO of Dodge. Okay. Right now, what I can tell you is they made an application for a truck. Dodge makes trucks. Tell me the next like car that would qualify for Xfinity or Cup. They don't have one. Okay, they're rebranding on Dodge right now. They're changing stuff up. So I don't see them getting into Xfinity and trucks anytime. I mean Xfinity and Cup anytime soon. I'd heard Kia was looking. I also talked to somebody this past weekend from another manufacturer. I'm not going to say because I might be onto something here, but there's another manufacturer that is looking at NASCAR. But the reason why Dodge didn't come back into the sport the last time when I was 100% certain they were coming, and I met with the Dodge people at Michigan International Speedway, and I met with the Dodge people at their headquarters outside of Detroit, and um, their CEO died. Okay, and the new CEO wanted everything to be electric. Okay, and that wasn't going to happen in NASCAR's time frame. I think there was a push there. We're not hearing much about electric cars anymore. And there's a put, we broke that story at Kicking the Tires about NASCAR doing the electric car. Well, they did it. They prove it can be done. Now they're using that platform to look at other aspects. They went overseas. I think a lot of it has to do with not wanting to get too far out on an internal combustion or ICE engine because the manufacturer is not sure where they're going to go based on government regulations and things like that. I mean, there are laws on the books. Trump could change some of these, but there are some regulations with EPA and things about cars that have to have a certain fuel mileage by 2035. Okay, we're only 10 years away from that. And California tried to push that up to 2030. So there's a lot of things that are playing behind the scenes that fans don't understand, but we got to do something. And you said something very interesting, Tyler, about team owners wanting to break even. Let me tell you something. You guys are in media. Dom, you own Racing Experts. I own Kicking the Tires. I'm just trying to break even. I hadn't made money, and I've told NASCAR this. I don't make money. If I can come out at the end of the year losing less money than the year before or breaking even, it's a good year for me. Okay. We haven't made money since 2018 or 19. Okay. There were times there and back in the early 2000s for me and probably around 2009 to 2012, I was making bank. I'll be honest. I did great. Then it kind of started slowing down and then it picked up in 16, 17, 18, 19. It was pretty much dead. And then the pandemic hit and I haven't recovered. Okay. I know you haven't. I know the other people out there that own these sites and that are the media, the legitimate media. We're not, just shooting video and putting it straight to YouTube. And we're not, just writing crazy ass clickbait stories, but the legitimate media, um, we're not making it. Hell, AP cut back. Okay. The Associated Press. I was the Associated Press radio person. They cut their NASCAR back this year. They cut their NASCAR back for Jenna Fryer at AP. Okay. It's just a way of the world. People aren't consuming it because I think part of it's the product's not good. And we've got to fix that if we want to continue. You know what was good? You know what the product is good? NHRA. They're growing. I go to their racetracks and I see more people every single time I go to an NHRA race. I see more people there. IndyCar, they're growing. Okay. NASCAR can say they've got the ratings and they can say that the fans, we sold out here, we sold out there, but I don't think they have they were so high up here and then they got so low down here. I think they're working their stuff out. Maybe they're growing some, but they're not getting back to what they used to be, and it's hurting them. And they're having they have financial issues too.
100%. 100% right. Jerry Jordan, KickInTheTires.net, joining us here on Let's Go Racing this week. Jerry, let me get your thoughts on Kyle Larson. You mentioned just the way he dominated and his performance there, coming off that week against Darlington, where he wrecked on lap 4. What do you think about Larson's win and where this team goes from here? I know a lot has been made about what Christopher Bell has done and Denny Hamlin and some of these other guys here. I would have to think that 5 team is going to be right there in championship contention. I could not have asked for a better response after that performance at Darlington.
So I'm giving my thoughts on this. Back when Kyle won his championship, I went out on a limb and I said, Kyle Larson's going to win 10 races this year. Okay. That was his year before he ever started winning races. It was on our podcast. I can go back and look at what episode it is. Okay. Seth, I can call Seth, probably he'd tell me. I said, Kyle Larson's going to win 10 races. Guess what? He did. And he won the championship. Okay. People thought I was crazy. I wish I could have bet it. I'd have made a fortune. I don't think he can win 10, but Kyle Larson is set to string several together. And as a matter of fact, I think there's a couple more people at Hendrick that are set to string a couple races together. I think Bowman is on the edge of greatness. He's close. And I picked Bowman. I don't know who else picked Bowman, but I can show you in my media polls that I do every week. I'm in a fantasy league. I put Bowman on the poll. I don't think anybody else picked Bowman for the poll. Okay. In the whole league. I don't think anybody else did. I see that team. I see that team coming along. I really do. Bell, they're there. I mean, him and Adam Stevens, they are clicking. Okay. He's got one of the greatest crew chiefs in the garage right now, and they're doing well. But Larson's set to click off some. And don't be surprised when he goes to Indy if he doesn't damn win the race. Okay. He could have won the race last year.
Yep.
He could have won the race last year. He got caught on pit road speeding, and he still had an opportunity. If there would have been a caution, he would have cycled and he would have been fine. He'd have been okay. Okay. So, as Tony Stewart said, Kyle Larson's that driver you can take and you pick him up and you put him here, put him there. He's going to win because Kyle Larson's a winner.
No doubt about it. And you mentioned the Tony Stewart experience at the NHRA race this weekend in Vegas. Tell me all about that. Walk us through your weekend and being around smoke and had a nice little ride home too. Tell us everything we need to know, Jerry.
I wasn't going to say anything about that on record, but that's okay. I think he said
I didn't. I let you open it. You don't have to go into detail.
It's okay. He said it at the media center. So yes, I was in I was in Vegas this past weekend, not at NASCAR. I was at NHRA, had a great time. They were running the four wides. This is the first time I've ever done a four wide race. And I'm still going through all my photos and stuff. I have one gallery online. You can go look at it from the Saturday, and I'm working on the rest of my gallery and everything from Sunday. You can find that at kickinthetires.net. But the Tony Stewart made two incredible passes. Their runs, their passes are that's what they call it, going down the drag strip. He won two incredible races. He had whole shots. He got off the line ahead of everybody, and his car was bad fast. Okay, this is on Sunday in the final rounds of the rounds of elimination. They speak differently over in NHRA than we speak in NASCAR, so I have to adapt, and I'm learning. On the final round, well, first off, he made it to the final round. So within the semifinal round, I'm looking at my watch and I'm looking at my flight, and I'm thinking, there's no way if he makes the final round, I'm gonna make my flight. I can't. Because I honestly felt like he was going to win if he made the final round. He had just missed winning in the final round 2 weeks before at Pomona when Clay Millican, blew up. But Clay had such a good run off the start that Tony couldn't catch up with him because Tony's car, was about to drop a cylinder, and he spun the tires and he just couldn't catch up to Clay, and that cost him his first win, which should have been at Pomona 2 weeks earlier. I felt like Tony doesn't necessarily say he has anything to prove. I mean, he doesn't, because he's Hall of Famer, legend, and whatever. But felt like if he made the final round, he's going to win it. And so I canceled my flight coming home. Didn't have a flight coming home. I figured I'd just stay in Vegas another night. Tony wins, great. I get an interview, talk to him. So long story short, Tony wins. We're talking after the race, and does all his media and stuff. And I told him the story. I said, "Look, I had so much faith in you winning. I canceled my flight because I knew I wasn't going to make it. I wouldn't. There was no way to make the flight and be in Victory Lane or Winter Circle is what they call it over there. They call it Winter Circle, not Victory Lane, and then do the press conference." Well, he's like, he had some sad news this past week. Rush Truck Centers, Rusty's wife passed away, and the funeral was Monday morning. Well, Tony was flying to San Antonio. And he looked at me and says, "I can get you to San Antonio." And I'm like, "How?" He's like, "Just fly with me." So I flew with Tony to San Antonio. And then from San Antonio, I caught a flight at 7 in the morning to Houston, and then drove to my office and worked all day. So, yeah, that's how my weekend ended. Now I'll tell you this. I worked all day after being up for basically 48 straight hours. I got home at 5:30. The last thing I looked at was my phone at 5:39. I remember this. My wife woke me up. I was on the couch. My wife woke me up at 9:25 and said, "Hey, babe, go to bed." So I walked from the couch to my bedroom, fell asleep, and woke up at 6:30 this morning. So I slept for 13 hours, roughly. Did not eat last night. I was that exhausted.
Oh,
But I had a nice ride home.
hey, a nice
Can't beat
ride
that.
home. Living glamorous. The private jet, can't beat that.
We
Yeah,
both pretty much crashed.
uh,
We were tired.
yeah, it sounds like it. Tony, he's kicking ass at this NHRA thing, isn't he? Not just as a driver, but as an owner. He's adapted pretty well.
He's done real well. It took him over a year to and by the way, the only reason why I'm saying that about the flight is because he actually said it in front of a bunch of people in the media center. So it's not a secret that I took the flight. So it's not a secret, and whatever. And actually we really didn't talk about racing almost the whole trip. We talked like 20 minutes about racing, and the rest of it was about family. Yeah, what you can talk about Tony and racing all you want, but when you talk about Leah and Dominic, his son, I don't know what you did, Dom, to get Tony to name his kid after
Good
you.
name.
Yeah, yeah. But man, he admitted it today on his interview with NHRA on the presser today. He's like, he almost lost it. when Leah walked up on the stage with him and had Dom in his arms, and it was a feeling. He said, "I've never felt that way in my life." He says, and he jokes, they're gonna have to put Dom on the payroll because when he did crappy at Brian, I forget where they're at, somewhere in Florida, they were running an all-star race in NHRA, and he said I went in there and just kind of hung out with Dominic in the motor coach, and he said I just immediately calmed me down, and he's going to be my um, what do they call it, support human. He's my support human, so we're gonna have to put him on the payroll. So emotional support human, that's what he called him. So, but yeah, so Tony's pumped up more about being a dad and a husband and a good one than anything about racing. Now, the racing side, we all knew Tony Stewart would get there one day. Okay, we knew that he'd win an NHRA race, but you have to lose one to win one. Now he's lost one, he's won one. I don't think it'll be the last one that he wins. Tony Stewart's going to go out there and win again. He could be your NHRA champion and top fuel dragster before it's all said and done. He's that determined. I don't know how many years he gets in the car. He owns a team with Leah, so it's an amazing combination, those two, and they're great together from what I can see. But he's dead serious. He made history. Okay, Tony Stewart has won at every single track at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. No one else in the history of the world has won an NHRA drag race, the World of Outlaws or sprint car, whatever that stuff is, over all the dirt little asphalt track, and a cup race at Las Vegas Motor Speedway on the big track. No one's ever done that. The only people that probably could even do it would be Kurt or Kyle, and neither one of those have an NHRA ride. Think about that.
Spectacular credentials when you look at Tony Stewart.
Yeah.
And when he won, man, I got to imagine.
By the way, his first top alcohol, when he was running top alcohol, his first top alcohol fuel win came at Las Vegas Motor Speedway in a 4-wide. He doesn't know what he doesn't know. This is what he says. He said, being 4-wide has messed up some of the drivers. He said it's good for him because he doesn't know any better. He didn't grow up running two trees. He ran up and he grew up, racing chaos. 4-wide doesn't bother him. He runs his sprint cars, for the love of God, So all he has to do is pay attention to those 4 lights, see who stays, the light changes, go. And that's what he did.
Has Tony said it all? Has he given an indication how long he want to keep doing this NHRA stuff?
As long as he wants, basically as long as he's competitive. But one thing that I forgot to mention a while ago, and I want to do this because when in talking to Tony, and listening to this press conference, Tony won the first 2 races of the eliminations. Tony was driving the car in the final round of eliminations, and when he won the race, but Tony didn't win that race. Okay, Tony was 3rd off the line. He dropped a cylinder at the end. It was after everything was over. Okay, the crew chief and the crew won that race because he came from behind and ran down Justin Ashley, ran down Antron Brown. Okay, he passed in a span of 3 seconds. He passed them after getting off the line 3rd of 4 drivers. Jasmine Salinas, I think her car blew up as well. Antron's blew up, which when you're running thousands and thousands of horsepower, that's what happens. So, he won the race. Don't get me wrong, but he gives all the credit to his crew and the work that they did. And it's not, I didn't get to ask my question today because I put my hand up late because I've spent so much time with him. But in truth, these crew chiefs over there, they don't just build cars and build engines and setups and clutches and, tire grip and water grains. And these are words you guys have no idea what I'm talking about. They have to watch the weather. There's 5 different weather screens in their hauler because they have to monitor the humidity, the temperature, the dew point. All of those things are important because all of those things matter whether or not the car hooks up or whether it spins the tires or blows up.
Fascinating stuff. I feel like I'm NHRA 101 here, Tyler.
Well, you're going to get to read about it at Kicking the Tires because I'm doing a story on it. That's why I know it somehow. So
that's phenomenal. And when I was thinking about Jerry. His wife Lee obviously stepped away for a bit to, raise their son and start a family and all that. I'm very curious, Jerry. Are we ever going to see him and Lee race head to head? Like, is that day ever going to come? You think in the Tony Stewart racing family?
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe, possibly. Could it happen?
She's
I
pretty
wouldn't.
good in her own right, right?
She almost won. Okay, so she barely lost the world championship the year that she stepped out of the car. Okay, she lost it just by a touch to Coletta. Okay, so she's very good, and not only is she good behind the wheel, she's also good with the business side. Kevin Harvick said today she's the Kevin Harvick. Tony Stewart said today she's the Kevin Harvick of the NHRA. She's that knowledgeable. She's that ingrained in the sport and knows it in and out. So he alluded today that maybe someday they race one another. But here's the thing: Tony can't win that race. Okay, because you can't go out there and beat your wife in an NHRA race or any race and win. Okay. You can win on the track and you can take home the trophy, but it's going to be a constant reminder to her up on that mantle that you beat her. Okay. And you're going to be sleeping on the couch pretty much forever. And if
Yeah,
if she wins, everybody's going to look at Tony and say, well, you suck. You got beat by a girl.
your wife.
Oh,
Yeah.
your wife.
Can't win
Yeah.
in this scenario. No.
You cannot win. It's a no-win scenario for Tony Stewart to race against Leah Pruitt.
I'm here for it. I hope it happens.
Oh, me too. Me too. I talked shit to him about it the whole time. I thought it was great. I want to see it.
Last thing I have on Tony, and then we can move on to news and notes, Dom. When I look at Tony's career, Jerry, from obviously the great run he had in NASCAR,
Hall of Famer.
IndyCar, won a couple championships. We know what he's done in sprint cars, and everything all encompassing. Can we think of anyone that has had a better, well-rounded racing career than Tony Stewart? I mean, I feel like he doesn't even get enough credit for just how good he's been in everything he's touched.
I don't know. I mean, for me, I mean, you can ask Dom, but for me, he's one of the greatest drivers that ever lived. Now he may disagree with that, but look, you know who the last driver was to win a championship before Jimmy Johnson got on his streak of winning a championship? It was Tony Stewart. You know who won the next championship after Jimmy Johnson was done with his streak? It was Tony Stewart. Do you know who won a Winston Cup championship, a Nextel Cup championship, and a Sprint Cup championship? It was Tony Stewart. At the time, that was the only person that had ever won in every single one of those divisions. Now we have, obviously, we went through Monster and we have the whatever it's called now. Okay. Um, but yeah, Tony at one time had won a championship with every single sponsor that was an entitlement sponsor of NASCAR. Okay. Um, he went in the Hall of Fame, first round ballot, no brainer. Okay. Started his own team, went out as he talked about today. One of the pinnacles when he was in NASCAR, everybody downed him for leaving Joe Gibbs Racing. He said it was a downfall of his career. He's going to a team that had never won anything. Okay, and they go out and win the highest paying race of the year, the All Star race, wins $1 million. Okay, and there's guys on the crew that are literally on the hall on the that's when he talked about today. They used to bring out a low boy off of an 18-wheeler for the crew to sit on and everything and celebrate. They were crying. They weren't upset. They were crying because they were happy. They never tasted victory lane. Okay, that Haas team that before Stewart got there had never done that. They'd never experienced what it was like to be like that, and he gave them that, and that helped build him. So, and then Kevin Harvick goes on and wins the organization a championship. I mean, later on down the road. So you gotta think he's done everything he touches turns to gold.
Certainly.
Yeah.
So it was cool being at that final win in 2016 at Sonoma, Jerry. I know you were there too for that one to see him get on that off sequence strategy, go out and lead the last 23 laps in a classic with Denny Hamlin, where Hamlin shakes him up going before the S's, and Stewart pays him back going into the hairpin, and that classic Sonoma finish, getting that 49th and final win. And it just seemed like he was going to go on a tear that year too, because he'd just come off that leg injury, and I don't know, maybe. Because of course, all the events that happened the last few years, Tony Stewart wasn't racing the same. And then you get to 2016, everyone writes him off. He wins that race and he knocks off top five after top five. It seemed like he was going to go on that 2011 type run. It didn't happen, but really cool to see one last spark there with Tony Stewart in 2016. Really cool to be covering the sport on a frequent basis and being able to see that firsthand.
He broke his back 4 times. The man has raced with a broken back. He raced 6 races with a broken back. I think it was 2009. Okay. He got injured racing monster trucks. Dustin Long talked about it today, and he got hurt with several other drivers and fractured his back and ran the last 6 races of the year from Talladega on with a broken back. Okay. I'm whether he's a nice guy or not, whether he's a friend of mine or not, the man's probably you'll have a hard time convincing me that he's not one of the greatest drivers to ever live. No matter what you put him in, he's going to win.
Yeah. I still think even back to the driver swap he did with Lewis Hamilton and in that F1 car. And I know that that was not an actual race and all that, but even just sliding in the F1 car that one time, he showed tremendous speed there at Watkins Glen. I mean, they don't build too many of them like Tony Stewart. He's certainly one of a kind. Dom, our news and notes, where do we want to begin?
Well, since the last time we were on this show, certainly it's been a very tough week for the NASCAR community. What maybe names people have known before, have had the pleasure of having the opportunity to meet, including with longtime motorsports rider Al Pearce and longtime NASCAR publicist for Hendrick Motorsports and Jeff Gordon, John Edwards. Al Pearce worked for Auto Week for over 55 years, covered 55 straight or 56 straight Daytona 500s. He passed away last week at the age of 82. And John Edwards, after a brief illness, the head of communications for Hendrick Motorsports, worked with Kyle Larson, worked with Jeff Gordon for most of his career, ended up passing away last week. I believe he was 52 years old. And Jerry, I want to turn this to you because of the three of us, you have certainly covered NASCAR the most. You've interacted with these two individuals more so than Tyler and I have combined. Really good memories that I have of both of these individuals. But when you think of those two names, what immediately comes to mind? What are some stories? What are some favorite memories you have of Al and of John?
I want to start with Al because without Al, I might not be here today. Okay. I might not be covering racing. Al Pearce, when I was young and younger, I mean, I'm 53. I started this 24 years ago. So you can do the math. I started in 2001. The next year is going to be 25 years for kicking the tires. Um, I used to travel with Al Pearce. Okay. I would fly to a race. I didn't have a hotel, didn't know my ins and outs that well, but I met Al and we became friends. And I would stay. He usually had a hotel or he had a house, a friend he knew through the years that would let him use, especially in Arizona and at Phoenix. And several years I would stay some of the races. I would stay with Al. He didn't have to do that. Okay. He didn't have to do that. I, in exchange, he wouldn't take money. Okay. In exchange for that, I took him to T-Bone Tom's over in Phoenix. It's the uh, T-Bones or whatever it is up on the mountain in Phoenix. I don't know if you've ever been there. I need to take you there. It's a steakhouse. Good times, man. Good memories. Al Pearce, he wrote a recap or a reminiscent story for me when I went to Le Mans 2 years ago to cover NASCAR and the 100th running of Le Mans. He wrote for Kicking the Tires his article about the first time that NASCAR ran at Le Mans. Okay, that's on our site. The videos, I did a video, with some of that stuff, and but Al was kind enough to put that together and do a nice article for me. So Al would check on me from time to time, and I would check on him. And at Daytona, um, he told me, he says, "Hey, what's your what's your next race?" And I said, well, I'm going to be in Atlanta. He says, I ain't going to be there. And he says, what about Charlotte? You'll be in Charlotte? I said, I'm going to be in Charlotte. He says, well, I'll see you at Charlotte. And he says, I may not be there the whole race, the whole weekend, but I plan on being at Charlotte. And they got me, you know, they told me I can't go to as many races. It's doctors and stuff and wife, you got a friend. So I'm thinking up until last week, I don't think anything of it. I answered a couple of questions for him via email that he had sent me before that. And I get the news that, you know, Al Pearce had passed away. I won't be seeing him at Charlotte. I won't ever see him again. My understanding is the funeral is going to be in June. I plan on being there if I can, if at all possible. Um, and they it sucks because Al Pearce he was important to me. He's important to a lot of people. Um, if you want to know uh, who Al Pearce was, you should call Matt Weaver. Okay, because Matt Weaver with Auto Week, when Matt first went to Auto Week, Al thought Matt was trying to get his job, and that was never the case. Uh, Matt Weaver loved that man, and he he was broke up. I called Matt. As a matter of fact, I called Matt because as soon as I found out, um, the first person that popped into my head was Matt Weaver because I knew they were close. And Matt was broke up. He had already heard. He had just heard a few minutes before. So then I called Kelly Crandall. She did not know. And I told her. Um, so yeah, so Al touched a lot of people in the sport and meant a lot to a lot of us. John Edwards was loved by pretty much everybody he met. Probably one of the most professional people in motorsports that I've ever known. Okay. I can't sit here and tell you that John Edwards gave me every interview with Jeff Gordon that I ever wanted because he didn't. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's true. He didn't. I asked for an interview with Jeff Gordon one time and there just was no way to happen. I also asked for an interview one time, Jeff, that John said, absolutely, we're going to make it happen. And something came up and he felt horrible about it. So much so that he went out of his way to make sure that Jeff and I got together before a deadline I had so that I could do it. Okay. That's the kind of guy John Edwards was. And he didn't just do that for me. John Edwards did that for everybody because he was a consummate professional. John Edwards, the impact on not only the sport, he knew how to talk to the media. He knew how to treat the media. They brought him back to work with Larson because they knew that when Larson came back from the suspension, that look, I'm not gonna lie, some of us are jerks. Okay. Some of the media in the media center can be jerks. They don't care. I look at the big picture. I got a story to write. Most of these drivers aren't my quote friends, but I work with them, and so they're darn sure acquaintances. But good or bad, it's like I told Kurt Busch one time. I said, good or bad, I'm going to write the stories about you. And some people, I think there's some people in the media center that get off to hurting other drivers or hurting drivers with writing articles and digging up, um, some errant like on a freaking Twitter account or whatever. Okay. And those people are dead to me. I have nothing to do with them. Okay. But John Edwards was brought back with Larson to handle that type of stuff and to handle all of, what the publicity that would be around Larson because Larson is a good person. John Edwards was a good person. And those two meshed together to work very well for him to do what he did. But you never saw anything but professionalism from John Edwards, no matter who he was talking to. And he protected his driver, which was his job. And he protected Hendrick Motorsports, which was his job. But he was also 100% honest for everything he's ever told me. John Edwards never misled me. If I was going to get an interview, I got the interview. If I wasn't going to get the interview, I didn't. And the one time that something came up, look, it's freaking motorsports. These people that take, I had an interview with so and so, and they skipped out on me. Well, Kevin Harvick did it to me at Martinsville. I drove 100 miles an hour to get there one year. Okay, literally got pulled over, convinced the cop not to arrest me. Okay, I get there, and Kevin Harvick can't meet with me. I was mad for about 2 seconds, and I'm like, okay, this dude's a race car driver. Something came up. It happens. But John Edwards made it up to me when it happened. I didn't get mad. I get it. Some people don't get it. But working with John Edwards through these years, I mean, he's been there every year that I've been in this sport.
Mhm.
And, he worked for Jeff Gordon. He worked for Kyle Larson. He worked for the Hendrick organization. And, I found out that he had been sick on Friday and he went home Saturday from Darlington. I think somebody checked on him. He went to the doctor or something, and they were trying to get in touch with him on Tuesday. And later on, somebody went to check on him, and he had passed away. There was a write-up, I think it was in Charlotte Observer today, that it was believed to be related to a diabetic illness. So, when you talk about that, and my wife's diabetic, okay? I have seen what that does. If you get low blood sugar or high blood sugar, it can kill you. It also causes complications with kidneys and other things in your heart. So I don't know the true cause, but I know that that's what the article was. It was related to some diabetic illness. My wife almost died twice in my arms from diabetes, from diabetic related issues. So I feel for his family. I mean, and he will be. There's a void because John Edwards was a legend in the PR world, in the motorsports world. Other PR people aspired to be half as good as he was. He was a mentor to many people, and there are many people that are broken up over losing him as well. Just like there are the media people that are broke up over Al Pearce. We've lost two great people this past week.
And all on the same day too last week, Jerry. It was a very, very hard week. And I'd gotten to know Al a little bit over the years, but I really got to know John 2015, 2014 when I was first starting to do this more on a regular basis. And same thing, wanted to get interviews with Jeff Gordon. It just wasn't going to happen because it was that final year. But hey, I get it. There was time commitments, and John was upfront and honest every single time. And even after that, would see him at the racetrack, and all the conversations would circle back to New Mexico in some regard. He told me he'd never been here before, where I'm from, but we would always circle the conversation back. Oh, how is New Mexico? Or what's new out there? It was just always really good. He always didn't make it about himself. He was always caring about the other person. And I saw him in Las Vegas a few weeks back, and did get the chance to connect with him. And I'm just kicking myself on that. Saw him from a distance. Wish I would have just said a quick hello, but you just some of those regrets. But you can tell the impact he had too, because Jeff Gordon, like you said, Jared, was one of the first ones, if not the first one, to post about his dear friend. And I think the word friend gets tossed around a lot, but you can tell these two are very close. Jeff Gordon posted on his social medias, quote, "I am devastated by the loss of my dear friend John. For almost 3 decades, we were side by side through every high and low, every celebration, and every challenge. He was one of the most loyal, hardworking, and selfless people I've ever known, and I will be forever grateful for his immeasurable impact on my life and my career. My heart is with John's family and everyone who loved him. He was truly one of a kind." And I would hear Jeff mention when he was still racing about John and mention him any chance he'd get. You could tell they were very close. Jerry, I think I'm saying here, right? We hear a lot about how media are not necessarily friends with people that they cover. PR people are probably not necessarily friends with the people that they work with. You want to keep that strictly professional. And I know there's tons of professionalism here, but with Jeff and John, you can tell it went beyond the business of the sport. You can tell there was a little bit of a brotherhood there.
There definitely was. And I think the lines get a little bit blurred. Look, we all have friends. We all have people that we that in the garage in the media center that are friends away from the track. It's the ability. There's no. I don't. If there's a rule. I've been in journalism my entire life. Okay, I've spent my life in this field. If there's a rule somewhere that says I can't be a friend with someone, then too bad. I'm going to violate it because I can be your friend and I can still write when something happens. If we're truly friends, you'll understand that. I have a job to do. Okay. I've had to do it with Kurt. I've had to do it with Tony. I've had to do it with several other drivers that I've covered through the years. I've had to do it with the mayor of this town that I live in, and in Beaumont. He was a friend. Our kids went to school together, and I wrote the stories that led to the investigation by the feds that led to him getting arrested, charged, convicted, and sent to prison on bribery charges. Okay. He was a friend, but and I always gave him a chance to to talk. The thing with John Edwards and with Al Pearce and anybody that would cross over and say they're friends and they'd get mad at you for saying, "Oh, you can't be friends with these guys. You're an idiot." Okay, because John Edwards was a friend to everyone because that's the kind of guy he was. Al Pearce was a gruff old man, but he would give you the shirt off his back if you were in need. I was a reporter in need, didn't know crap when I first started, and he guided me and told me what to look for. Him, David Poole, who passed away. There's a jacket in my closet that David Poole's wife gave me. That's how close Poole and I were. Okay. Um, and it's just one of those things. You have to be able to separate it, but you also have to be a human being. And I think sometimes people lose sight of that. John Edwards was a good human being, and so was Al Pearce.
That's very touching. I didn't really get to know either individual, but just hearing from you guys, that opens my heart. I mean, it's very moving, powerful stuff on both men, and they'll certainly be missed. And uh, Jerry, even all the stuff you say about me, I'm still your friend. So
All the stuff I say, yeah, yeah. I'm just jealous that you have found a better diet plan than me, man. You are looking sharp. I saw you on TV before the Final Four.
oh, thank you. It's been a great ride, but job's not finished. Still more
I,
work to do. But,
I was like, I know that dude. I know that dude.
Yeah, Tyler, you're looking pretty good. I know I tell you that all the time, but
thank
man,
you.
you're looking as sharp as ever. I think we don't spotlight that enough. I know you're very.
No, no, no. We don't need to talk about that any further. We
But
need
I'm
to
just
move
saying,
on.
no, it's awesome. I think it's an inspiration to many. It really is. It really is.
No, 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 no. We need to move on. Dom, what are the odds looking like for Rockingham? Don't make me guess
Who
Xfinity and
thinks the
Tryout.
odds-on favorite for Rockingham? Come on, Tyler. You have to at least give a good guess. You're pretty good at
I'm
guessing.
not doing this. I refuse.
Well,
Who's on?
Jerry,
Who's?
Jerry, Jerry will play along. Who do you think the odds-on favorite is for the Education Lottery 250?
I don't know who's in it yet. I hadn't looked at the entry list.
Well, you have 40 drivers trying for 38 spots. Justin Allgaier is your odds-on favorite heading
Well,
into
of course.
at plus
I
240.
was gonna ask, is Kyle Larson racing?
No, no Cup guys are running the Xfinity
Okay,
race.
so, okay, okay.
Let's count
So,
Casey Kane as a former Cup guy, but now
uh,
he's listed at 8 to 1 or plus 800. Sheldon
AC King
Creed.
Friday is back, baby.
Casey Kane
hey,
Friday is back. Yes, he'll be
hey,
back.
I am pulling for Casey Kane.
Me too.
That'll be a fun one to follow. Sheldon Creed, 13 second place finishes. He's never won, but he's at plus 700 for this Saturday. Austin Hill, Jesse Love, and Sam Mayer all sharing at plus 750. Brandon Jones, Connor Zilch, both winners this year at plus 1,000. Justin Bonsignor and Carson Quapple at 15 to 1 or plus 1,500. Sammy Smith plus 1,800. Ryan Sieg, who's never won in Xfinity, plus 2,000. Taylor Gray plus 2,500. And as you go down the list, the odds start getting greater and greater. Harrison Burton plus 6,500. And the rest of you can check out at theracingexperts.com.
Let's see if the CW actually shows up this week.
So I would like to point something out. What were the stats on Tanner Gray?
Taylor Gray plus 2,500.
Oh, not Tanner Gray.
Yeah, truck odds at the time of the taping were not out.
Okay, so there's a little factoid y'all might not know about Tanner Gray. Did y'all know that he?
Mexico.
Yeah, did you know that he used to race NHRA?
No.
You know that.
Did you know that Tanner Gray is the youngest professional driver to win a national event in the NHRA history, and was the youngest driver to win a solo NHRA season championship?
Did not know that.
Yeah, I learned this past weekend because I'm sitting at NHRA in the media center and I'm watching their recaps, and they were talking about and Tanner Gray this and Tanner Gray that. I'm like, that's a weird name. We've got a Tanner Gray over in NASCAR. And they're like, yeah, it's the same person, dummy. I'm like, no one told me. I said, I had no idea. I called Kelly. I'm like, why didn't you tell me this? She's like, I thought you knew. I'm like, He's like, he hadn't raced over there in forever. I said, in forever, he's 12 years old. He had, but
Well,
yeah, Tanner Gray won an NHRA event.
a few years back, when Christopher Bell won his first Cup race, we were talking about that extensively here on this podcast. And Tyler, being from Oklahoma, was really, really excited to knock that off list. I think the 37 different state a Cup driver had won a race. I do think it's going to be one of those Gray brothers that eventually knocks off that list for a New Mexican driver to be able to win a Cup Series race. Taylor or Tanner could either
Well,
be the case.
Tanner's 26 years old, and he has also raced and won in NHRA. So
Okay.
Make New
Um,
Mexico proud.
so we aren't racing on the Cup side this weekend with it being the Easter holiday. Selfishly, I wish we were racing, but Dom, this was kind of a big push from the drivers. I know that Bristol hosted Easter for a couple of years, and I think they called it like the Easter Spectacular or something like that, and you had the dirt race and all that. But uh, they were very adamant. They wanted this weekend off again.
Well, and it used to be a staple on the schedule in the 50s and the 60s. NASCAR would flirt with it back and forth. And across the 77-year history of the Cup Series, they have raced 14 times on Easter. And there was a span there for a long time from about 1970 to but just before the NextGen era where NASCAR did not run on Easter. They had to run at Richmond in 89. It was the second race of the year. I think snow or rains. There was some sort of inclement weather that pushed it back to Easter weekend because that was originally an off week. But NASCAR really tried to kickstart a tradition that never really got off the ground. And that race weekend typically wasn't a race weekend. It was the weekend to be home with families. I think NASCAR might have been going for, hey, the NBA's got the Christmas game, the NFL's got the Thanksgiving games, we've got the Easter race covered. But just I don't know. Personally, I'm glad that we're not racing on Easter, at least on the Sunday, and give everybody an opportunity to be home with their families.
yeah, let everybody enjoy. I mean, I know we're racing, at the Rock this weekend with Xfinity and trucks, but let people let them enjoy, go home, be with their family. I selfishly want the truck race to rain out on Friday, so that's and I run it on Saturday. That that because young driver who now works for Nice that I've been working with since he was like 11 years old turns 18 on Saturday, and he works. So okay, I'm gonna interject this real quick, whether y'all want it or not. But Ryder Wells, who I've been building up as a driver through the years, has a job on the crew at Nice Motorsports. Okay, he works every day at Nice Motorsports. He's gonna probably end up driving some NASCAR trucks, and also he's already done some late model. But you can't work on a pit crew until you're 18 at the track. He's 17. He's been hired. He's doing all this stuff. He's working at the shop. But you can go drive a truck. You can drive an Xfinity car, whatever, at 16 years old, 17 years old. You can't work on the vehicle. Explain to me, riddle me that one, Batman. How can you do 180 miles an hour or 160 miles an hour or whatever they run, okay, behind the wheel, yet you can't work on the car at the track? I don't get it. But that's a NASCAR rule.
But you can work on it at the shop. How's that make sense?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, that doesn't add up to me either. Before we go, let's get to our mailbag segment. We ask you guys to submit questions to us each and every week. DavidStarPodcast@gmail.com, Facebook and X at Star Podcast. You can find us there. First question in the mailbag this week comes from Terrence. Terrence wants to know, guys, if there was one thing in NASCAR that you could change, what would it be and why? Jerry, let's start with you.
This car on short tracks.
That's a good answer.
You asked. I mean, that's what I mean. Look, we got the road. This car, if you think back to how it was built, this car was built during the pandemic. Much of what this car is came from a IMSA team. Okay. It was part of this. One of the two versions of this car was built by Jim France's IMSA team. It's set up to run road courses. It does a damn good job on intermediate tracks. It's not bad on draft tracks either. but on short tracks, it's pathetic. We had a car before this one that I think, if I remember right, was good on short tracks, but not good on intermediates and not good on road courses.
Yep.
So let's figure this out. We got lots and billions of dollars and lots of smart people.
Yep.
Fix this car on short tracks, and the world will be a greater place.
All right, Dom, you're in charge of NASCAR. What are you changing?
We're bringing back doubleheader weekends and Wednesday night racing like we saw during the pandemic. We saw the next gen car get built over that time, like Jerry said. But some of the creativity that came out of that season, trying to get the schedule back on track, really spoke to me. And having Monday night, Wednesday night type deals, or like how Pocono was already scheduled, but what they did with Dover, what they did with Michigan, you give the opportunity for more off weeks during the season. And again, that was again out of necessity because originally the Olympics were going to be during that time. And you had the 2 week break with the TV coverage on NBC, but nonetheless, you do more doubleheader weekends. You do more Wednesday night racing. Maybe the season's ending by October, or you have the ability to throw in more off weeks throughout the year, which I think the entire industry would be okay with. Those are the changes I'm making. Let's bring back a Pocono, Dover, and Michigan doubleheader. You, Tyler, what are you doing in charge?
So I'll add one thing to your thing, and then I'll tell my original idea. I like where Dom's going with that, but I would end the season Labor Day weekend. NASCAR has no business needing to compete with football in the fall. I would make the championship weekend Labor Day weekend, and then you have all that time off from September to January. Let everybody get refreshed, recouped, and then ready to roll in Daytona in February. Golf just switched to this recently where they're not doing PGA Tour events in the fall months anymore. They have some exhibitions here and there. Maybe you could open the door to exhibition NASCAR races in that stretch, but they have gotten out of the business completely of trying to compete with the NFL. And because the NFL is king. I mean, they took over Sundays from God, for crying out loud. Why are we trying to race NASCAR races on Sundays in the fall? Doesn't make sense. Now, here's my original idea. I would tweak the playoff format where I hate this whole thing about us resetting the points every round. I think, and the whole idea too of your wins determine your points, and the playoff points is just silly. I would seed based on how you finished in the regular season, and we're not resetting the points after each round. We're going to eliminate drivers, but we're not going to reset the points every time. And I would change, instead of a championship four at the end of it, let's just make it the top two. The top two drivers that are remaining, whoever finishes higher between the two of them, then they get to be the champion. And then we don't have these Mickey Mouse championships where somebody that only won 2 or 3 races all year all of a sudden finds themselves in the championship four and they got a chance to win the whole title. I don't think that's really fair. Let's get the best two and guarantee that we have the best worthy champion to win it all when it's all said and done. That's what I would do. Jerry, what do you think of our ideas here?
Not bad. I mean, I'm not opposed to any of those. I think we need to tweak the playoffs. I like the idea of ending the season a little earlier. I also like the idea of starting the season a little earlier. I would like to see us run some more races in other countries. I think Mexico is going to be a phenomenal success, regardless of what everybody is saying. Everybody said that. I say everybody. All the naysayers said that Chicago would be a disaster. We would end up with blood in the streets and people dying and NASCAR fans,
Dominic was one of them.
Dominic was one of them.
Oh, he was. He
Well,
was.
so I
You're
didn't know
not giving
that.
the full story there, Tyler. No, you're just painting a picture just to
So
benefit you there.
No,
so
I'm telling 100% the truth. He told me for months on end it was going to be a disaster. And I said, no, it won't. No, it won't.
I
it,
said
it
it'll be a flop because the mayor doesn't even want it. I said it from a political standpoint that the parties in charge did not want it and they saw the economic benefit to
the
the
new
town.
mayor didn't want it. The old mayor wanted it. But
Exactly.
Lori Lightfoot was an interesting character. I'm just going to leave it at that.
One way to put it.
But Brandon is also an interesting character, and they both have their own problems. I've met both of them. Remember, I come from a political world of background of
Yeah.
investigative reporting. Um, so yeah, they each have their own issues. But at the end of the day, they did what was right for the city and had NASCAR there, and it's making that city millions and millions of dollars. Just try to get a hotel. I have 6 rooms. If anybody needs one, by the way, give me a call. I can sublet one to you because I don't need them all. I'm going to cancel them, but they are good prices because I got them ahead of the schedule. So that said, I want to go to Mexico. Definitely more than once. I would like to see us go overseas. I don't know how the logistics will work, but the reception that NASCAR got when Jimmy Johnson and Hendrick Motorsports and Jeff Gordon and everybody went over there for the Garage 56 car. I was in. Okay, so Lamar does a parade before the race starts, before, like through the town, the actual town. Hundreds of thousands of people were there lining the streets. And you know what? Everything they looked at, all the cars that they really liked were the American muscle cars. There were Corvettes and there were Camaros and there were Mustangs and there were Lamborghinis and Ferraris and all that stuff, but people went nuts for the American cars. And when the Garage 56 car went by, it was off the chart. It was insane. You can go back and find my live. I videoed the whole thing, streamed it live from Le Mans, okay, on YouTube, and it was nuts. So we have a huge following potential for overseas, and I would like to see us get there.
Okay. Next question in the inbox this week. It comes from Sid. Sid wants to know, guys, who is a sponsor that has not been involved in NASCAR that you would like to see in the sport and would be a good fit? I have one that comes to mind right away, but I'll hold my tongue. I want to hear what you guys have to say first. Dom, let's start with you.
Yeah, you got me there. I'm gonna pass to Jerry. Come back to me.
No more Cheers shampoo because we got a lot of criers in the damn sport.
Okay. Here's my answer. To my knowledge, they have never sponsored a race car, and I think that it's a perfect opportunity. It's this NASCAR should be their demographic. We need Twin Peaks on a race car. Twin Peaks would move mountains, literally.
Oh wow. Oh, you were just sitting on that. You couldn't wait to say that one.
You get the Twin Peaks girls that I mean, like the Monster girls would all of a sudden have some competition to deal with. Um, you know, they got great food. Maybe they could help us out in the media side, and if they want to come to the media center, by all means, they're more than welcome.
You know,
I would be all in. I
hey,
don't care what team, what driver. I would be a fan of the Twin Peaks car. Hooters has gone bankrupt.
yeah, they got into NASCAR again. They went bankrupt.
Yeah, Hooters is done. No longer with Chase Elliott and all that. I think this is the time that Twin Peaks needs to capitalize, much like what FedEx did at the end of the Dale Jarrett UPS days. You know, they came in, partnered with Denny Hamlin, and had a great run. I think it's Twin Peaks' time, Jerry. How about that idea?
I will be honest with you. I've actually been to Twin Peaks a couple of times. Their food was pretty good, actually. They have some really good bacon. I mean, people are going to say like, yeah, right, whatever. No, like they have it's called like the millionaire bacon, and it's like this candied bacon stuff, and it's really freaking good.
So what you're saying is you were slamming the meat.
I was no, I was trying the bacon. So,
Okay,
but yeah, but I was focused on my meal.
there you go. I thought I'd tie in here, Tyler. We're talking food. Jerry's been covering NHRA. I know they're a big NHRA partner. They've never, to my knowledge, either partnered with a NASCAR team. And I'm sure they've been hit up so many times. Lisa Snyder's a big fan of racing. Her company, In-N-Out Burger, I think would be really cool as a burger competitor there in a NASCAR team of some sorts. But we've never seen In-N-Out step into the foray or Buc-ee's. But we know the Buc-ee's CEO was
Buc-ee's is
at the Daytona
working.
500. Yeah.
Yeah, they're working on something. Because being from Texas and Buc-ee's is a Texas company, Yeah, I keep up with that, and I would love to see Bucky's. I would love to see Bucky's be a sponsor of Kicking the Tires. Just saying, because I spend a lot of money, and you could give me a Bucky's card, and it would save me a lot of money. So I would be happy to work with them. Um, yeah, get in the sport, please. We
Yeah.
need we need Bucky's. I mean, Twin Peaks would be good for you, I guess. You're you're single. I'm not. Uh, you know.
Oh, I got a story for off air based on that for you. Dominic's disappointed in me. We'll put it that way.
You make
But
me proud a lot, Tyler, but there are some moments I just shake my head.
yeah, this may be one of those. Actually, it definitely is one of those. Before we get out of here, Jerry, what's going on with you? What are you doing over the next couple weeks?
Over the next, well, this weekend, my wife, I showed y'all my room. I'm not gonna, on the camera, but I'm remodeling my office and my room here this weekend over Easter weekend, and I will be going to Texas Motor Speedway for that race. I'm in a dilemma, okay, and I'm going to put this out there, and my phone's going to blow up. But my phone number is 409-498-1074. My email is kickingthetires@gmail.com. I need a writer that is competent and qualified to help me with NASCAR.
So
I ha
not Dominic then. He's not competent
Or
whatsoever.
Tyler.
I have no money. Um, it's more of an internship. I look, everybody who's ever come to work for, I've used Kicking the Tires for a long time, and I've paid a lot of people through the years. Most of my people get something, and I still help when I can. Right now, I told y'all earlier, we're not making money in this sport. So it's hard. But everyone who's ever come to work for me has gone on to work somewhere big, NBC Sports, CNN, NASCAR, worked for a team. So we have a reputation of building professional people and teaching them how to do this job and be in this industry. And if there's someone out there, I just gave you my phone numbers, my email, go back and listen to it. But I'm looking to help someone that's looking to help me, because I can't do it all. I've got a marketing company that during the week, that it has taken up a lot more of my time than I thought it would. I also am the executive director of a national charity, and that's it's not a big paying job. But it's a big national charity that's important to me, and they asked me to be their executive director. So I do that as well. So all of these things combined with covering NASCAR and NHRA and IndyCar and all the stuff we're doing, I don't have time for it. Not to do that and be a husband and stuff like that. So I'm needing some help. I've never made that public. I've always kind of went behind the scenes and got people, but it's been hard. So and it's hurt our stuff. I've got people that can cover IndyCar and that do photos. I don't need another photographer. I need someone that can be competent and put together some help me put together some articles and get more content. Because look, if we make money, you'll make money. I will help everywhere I can. But it's a struggle to get. And Dom, I know you know that feeling. It's a struggle to get good content all the time.
It is. It is when you run an independent website and you're really dependent on people. And we've been in that same spot before too. We've been able to help out a lot of people, but this is a passion of love sometimes, and we're doing this out of the passion we have for the sport. I don't want to say we love the sport because you can't love something that can't love you back. But we definitely have a lot of passion for what we do, and it takes people to make that happen.
Of the 10 to 12 people that have come to work for me through the year, at one point I had 13 people at working for me at one time, and some of them still do. So of the 10 to 12 that have come to work for me through the years and moved on, every single one of them not only has gotten a good reference from me, every single one of them has gone on to do something better, make money, and be professional in what they're doing in the sports, whether it be here or another sport. But they have gone on to build their career, just like I started this thing. Years ago, I did it all by myself. Summer Bedgood was my first employee that came on. She's still on our site, can still do whatever she wants. She's doing PR in ARCA. Okay. Zach Catanzaretti is working for NBC Sports. Matt Corson, he was with y'all and he came to me and he still helps me out. He's still here, but he's done some from PR and NASCAR and things like that. So, I could go on the whole list. People that work for PR firms now, or they run the college communications department somewhere, all because of the experience that they built while they were with Kicking the Tires. And I know because they had no other job when they went before me, that they went after leaving me to go get something else. So that has helped them. And I truly want to help people do better in their careers, because I had, like I said, with Al earlier, he helped me. And I've kind of tried to give back to people like that.
Oh, Dom, what's going on with you?
Yeah, it'll be a fun weekend at home. I think it's going to be a lot of fun to spend with the family. Of course, Easter weekend, and my future sister-in-law, she's becoming a confirmed Catholic this weekend. We're going to be celebrating that with Easter Vigil Mass. So a lot of fun stuff planned around that, and still trying to figure out how that's all going to work with the schedule and times, of course. But nonetheless a very happy time in our family. And yeah, man, it's going to be a great weekend. What are you doing for Easter, Tyler?
So I'm headed home to Tulsa for Easter, see the family. Hopefully, I don't get stuck this time like I did last time. Jerry, he was right. He told me, he said, because I was trying to leave the next morning to make it to work, and we had a snowstorm. And Jerry told me, "There's no way you're gonna get there in 4 hours and make it to work." And sure enough, I called in the next morning and took the day off and just took my time getting back. So Jerry, you were right. Just to follow up. So yes, but going to be bouncing around some storms, so this should be fun to see how that plays out. But definitely excited about Easter, and good to see the fam. It should be a great time. Get to church and all that stuff, and it'll be a lot of fun. Appreciate you all joining us here on Let's Go Racing. Subscribe to the show. New episodes out each and every week. Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you listen to podcasts. Also, hit us up in social media at Star Podcast and X and Facebook. Also by email, davidstarpodcast@gmail.com. This show's part of the Studio Soapbox Network. Check out this show as well as the Jones Report and the Coach Bo Knows podcast on all podcast platforms. We'll put the checkered flag out on this edition of Let's Go Racing. Dominic Aragon and Jerry Jordan. I'm Tyler Jones. So long. It's been another edition of Let's Go Racing. We'll see you next week.